The diplomatic vessel, Pax Humana, drifted silently in the void, its sleek hull reflecting the distant light of the F4 galaxy's central star cluster. Ambassador Varric Nomari stood at the observation deck, his weathered face illuminated by the cosmic panorama before him. 30 years of diplomatic service had not prepared him for this mission. Humanity's first official envoy to the Quasirian Confederacy, the dominant power in F4. "Ambassador, we've received clearance to dock at Helix Station," announced Lieutenant Isola Ravenna, her voice carrying both excitement and apprehension. "The Quasirian High Council awaits your arrival." Nomari nodded, straightening the ceremonial sash across his formal attire. "Remember our briefing, Lieutenant. The Quasirians respect directness but interpret sustained eye contact as aggression. We're here to establish peaceful relations, not to provoke them." "Yes, sir." The shuttle is prepped and ready. The journey to Helix Station was brief. As they approached, Nomari marveled at the massive structure, a spiraling artificial habitat housing representatives from 16 species within the Confederacy. The Quasirians themselves remained mysterious. Intelligence on them was sparse. Earth's long-range probes had captured only grainy images of their elongated silhouettes and multi-jointed limbs. Upon docking, they were met by Envoy interpreter Zeltaran, a slender being with azure skin and 4 arms who belonged to one of the Confederacy's client species. "Ambassador Nomari of Earth, the High Council honors your journey," Zeltaran said, bowing slightly. "I am to guide you through protocols before the formal reception." The station's interior was a marvel of bioengineering. Living walls pulsed, with luminescent veins, and atmosphere fields separated regions with different environmental requirements without physical barriers. As they traversed deeper into the station, Nomari noticed the subtle shifts in gravity and atmospheric composition, masterfully calibrated for different physiologies. "The Quasirians are most interested in human resilience," Zeltaran explained, as they walked. "Your species' ability to survive in varied environments is unprecedented in our records." "We're adaptable," Nomari replied modestly, "a trait born from evolving on a challenging homeworld." They entered a vast chamber where 12 towering figures awaited, their bodies covered in reflective exoskeletons that shifted colors like oil on water. These were the Quasirian High Counselors, the architects of the F4 galaxy's most powerful alliance. High Counselor Veshmara stepped forward, its voice a harmonic resonance that seemed to bypass the ears and speak directly to the mind. "Earth Ambassador, your presence marks a significant moment. We have observed your kind's expansion with interest." Nomari bowed respectfully before presenting the ceremonial gift, a data crystal containing Earth's musical masterpieces spanning 2 millennia. "On behalf of humanity, I bring greetings and the hope for mutual understanding." The exchange proceeded smoothly until the formal banquet. As Nomari sampled a ceremonial beverage offered by Veshmara, his throat constricted violently. He collapsed, gasping for air as Lieutenant Ravenna rushed to his side. "Ambassador!" she cried, activating her emergency medical implant. "Something's wrong. He can't breathe." The Quasirians moved with unsettling speed, their previously languid motions transformed to blur. One seized the goblet, analyzing its contents with a handheld device. "This contains hydromethyline compounds," announced Veshmara, its color patterns flashing in what appeared to be alarm. "Fatal to your biology. How did this—" Nomari's vision darkened as Ravenna desperately administered emergency treatments. His final conscious thought was not of failure, but of concern. This incident, whatever its cause, could spark a diplomatic catastrophe between humanity and the most powerful force in the F4 galaxy. As the ambassador's heart stopped, an automated quantum signal pulsed from his diplomatic implant, racing across vast interstellar distances toward Earth, carrying his final neural imprint and a single, damning message. "Assassination confirmed." Admiral Kaida Okoye stared at the holographic projection of F4 Galaxy with eyes that had not slept in 36 hours. The quantum transmission from Ambassador Nomari's implant had reached Earth Defense Command headquarters 14 hours ago, and since then the planet had been a hornet's nest of activity. "Replay the neural imprint," she ordered, her voice betraying no emotion, though her hands were clenched tight enough to whiten knuckles. The air shimmered as Nomari's final moments appeared in three-dimensional clarity. The offered drink, the sudden respiratory distress, the Quasirian's reaction. Most importantly, the spectrographic analysis of the beverage that flashed across a Quasirian device, confirming the presence of hydromethylline compounds before the feed terminated. "They knew it was poison," said General Ezra Dahl, his artificial eye zooming in on the data. "The question is whether this was sanctioned by their leadership or the work of a faction." The crisis response chamber held 12 individuals representing Earth's unified government, military command, and intelligence services. The 13th chair, traditionally occupied by the diplomatic corps, remained pointedly empty. "Lieutenant Ravenna's status?" asked Director Lane Marikova of Intelligence. "Unknown. All communication with the Pax Humana has been severed," replied Communications Officer Prisha Dewan. The vessel's automated systems registered weapons fire aboard before going silent. President Eleutheria Castellanos, barely 2 months into her term, addressed the room. "I've reviewed the contingency protocols established after the Proxima incident. They are clear. Under Section 7, the assassination of an Earth envoy constitutes an act of war." "Madam President," interjected Admiral Okoye, "we should consider diplomatic channels before—" "The Quasirians have made their position clear through action, Admiral," the President cut in. "Our intelligence suggests they've systematically eliminated envoys from 3 other emerging spacefaring species in the past decade. Each time they claimed tragic accidents while consolidating control over resource-rich systems. We will not allow Earth to become their next conquest by appearing weak." She activated the central display, revealing a classified military asset that few in the room had been briefed on. "Operation Quicksilver is now active. Admiral, you have authorization to deploy Raven units." A murmur rippled through the chamber. The rapid assault vessels with enhanced neutronics, Ravens, represented Earth's most advanced military technology, vessels capable of unconventional faster-than-light travel through artificially generated wormholes, carrying payloads that could devastate entire orbital installations. "The Quasirians believe themselves untouchable because of distance," the President continued. "They do not know what we are truly capable of. Earth has maintained a peaceful facade while developing defenses against threats exactly like this. We will demonstrate that humanity cannot be eliminated with impunity." Within hours, 7 Raven vessels detached from their hidden lunar berths, their hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Each carried a tactical strike team led by commanders with direct neural interfaces to their ship's AI systems, a symbiosis that allowed reaction times impossible for unaugmented humans. Commander Orion Kalani felt the cold precision of mission parameters flooding his consciousness as his Raven, designated Nemesis, accelerated toward its jump point. The wormhole generator, technology reverse-engineered from a crashed alien vessel found in Earth's Kuiper Belt decades ago, began its complex calculations. "All units, synchronize final jump coordinates," he subvocalized through his neural link. "Remember, our target is Helix Station's defensive infrastructure only. Minimal casualties, maximum impact. We show them our reach first. Negotiations come after they understand what they're dealing with." The 7 Raven units vanished from the solar system in a brief distortion of space-time, leaving behind only President Castellanos' grim declaration to Earth's population. "Today we mourn Ambassador Nomari. Tomorrow the galaxies will understand that humanity's envoys are inviolate, and our response to aggression is both swift and decisive." In the F4 galaxy, the Quasirian High Council remained unaware that their momentous day of first contact with humans was about to be eclipsed by a demonstration of humanity's wrath, delivered with a precision and speed they had believed technologically impossible. Helix Station rotated serenely against the backdrop of swirling nebula gases, its defenses oriented toward conventional threats. Massive warships that would emerge from hyperspace at predictable vectors. Nothing in Quasarian military doctrine prepared them for 7 pinpoint ruptures in space-time, appearing simultaneously at strategic locations around their most secure installation. The Raven vessels materialized with perfect synchronicity, their quantum-locked hulls absorbing scanner pulses rather than reflecting them. Before Helix Station's automated defense grid could recalibrate, precision strikes from graviton lances severed communication arrays and weapons emplacements with surgical accuracy. Commander Kalani felt rather than saw the success of the initial barrage through his neural interface. Phase 1 complete. Minimize structural damage to habitation sections. Proceed to Phase 2. Inside Helix Station, alarms blared as emergency bulkheads slammed shut. High Counselor Veshmara was in mid-conference when the attack began, its color patterns shifting to crimson alarm as reports flooded in. "Impossible," declared Defense Minister Krell Vorax. "No species possesses technology to breach our outer perimeter without detection. The humans lack interstellar military capacity beyond their immediate neighboring systems." "Evidently our intelligence was flawed," Veshmara replied, its harmonic voice now discordant with stress. "Deploy the Sentinel fleet. Activate the gravitic disruptors." But the Quasarian response came too late. From 5 Ravens, specialized boarding craft launched, their hulls phase-shifting to pass directly through Helix Station's outer shell, another technology the Quasarians had believed theoretically impossible. Lieutenant Commander Zara Keita led the primary insertion team, her combat exosuit enhancing her natural abilities while its adaptive camouflage mimicked surrounding surfaces. 20 elite operators moved with her through the station's arterial corridors, encountering minimal resistance. The Quasarians, for all their technological sophistication, had grown complacent in their centuries of unchallenged dominance. "Security. Hub located," Keita subvocalized. "Breaching in 3, 2, 1. The door dissolved under targeted molecular disassemblers. Inside, panicked Quasarian technicians reached for weapons but froze as they realized the humans already had them in their targeting systems. "We seek Lieutenant Ravenna and justice for Ambassador Nomari," Keita announced through her suit's translator. "Cooperate, and no one else needs to die today." Meanwhile, Commander Kalani directed the remaining 2 Ravens to intercept the approaching Quasarian Sentinel fleet. The alien vessels were impressive, massive constructs of living metal that adapted to energy weapons, but they had never encountered the Ravens' primary offensive capability. "Deploy chronostatic fields," Kalani ordered. Space itself seemed to crystallize around 3 Sentinel vessels as temporal disruption weapons activated, trapping them in localized fields where time proceeded at 1,000th normal rate. To outside observers, the mighty warships appeared frozen, their energy shields sparkling in slow-motion dissipation. On the station's command level, Keita's team secured the central database core. Specialist Darius Moreau, the team's cyber warfare expert, interfaced directly with the alien system. "I've located Ambassador Nomari's neural imprint data," he reported. "And something else, communications between certain council members discussing the human containment protocol days before the ambassador's arrival. This wasn't a rogue action. It was premeditated." Keita's expression hardened behind her visor. "Download everything, and find Lieutenant Ravenna's location." The team moved deeper into the station's secure levels, encountering increasingly desperate resistance. Quasarians fought with unexpected ferocity when cornered, their exoskeletons capable of generating localized energy fields that deflected conventional projectiles. In a detention block 7 levels below the council chambers, they found Lieutenant Ravenna. She was injured but alive, her uniform stained with blood and the marks of interrogation evident on her face. "Commander," she whispered hoarsely as Keita removed her restraints. "They wanted to know about Earth's defenses, our FTL capabilities. This wasn't just about the ambassador. They're planning something bigger." Outside, the remaining Sentinel vessels attempted to retreat, only to find their hyperspace vectors blocked by precisely calculated gravitational interference from the Ravens. The message was clear. The humans could have destroyed them entirely, but chose restraint. As the operation neared completion, Commander Kalani opened a direct communication channel to the station. The face of High Counselor Veshmara appeared, its color patterns now pulsing with ultraviolet frequencies that signaled extreme distress. "This demonstration concludes our initial response," Kalani stated flatly. "Ambassador Nomari's remains, and Lieutenant Ravenna will return with us to Earth. Within one standard cycle, you will receive our terms for reparations and the continuation of diplomatic relations, should we decide they remain possible." Veshmara's harmonic voice wavered. "Your technology? How did you traverse such distances?" Kalani allowed himself a cold smile. "Perhaps you should have asked Ambassador Nomari about human capabilities before you poisoned him. We will depart now with our people. Be warned, this station remains within our strike capacity. Any pursuit will be considered an act of continued aggression." In perfect coordination, the human forces withdrew, taking with them the ambassadors' remains, the rescued lieutenant, and terabytes of classified Quasirian data. The Ravens vanished as they had appeared, through impossibly precise wormhole jumps that defied the Quasirians' understanding of physics. Left behind was a stunned Confederacy, suddenly forced to recognize that the galaxy's power balance had irrevocably shifted. The species they had dismissed as an emerging threat had demonstrated capabilities that rendered distance meaningless and defensive technologies obsolete. The Quasirian High Council chamber, normally a model of ordered deliberation, had devolved into chaos. High Counselor Veshmara struggled to maintain order as faction representatives shouted over one another, their color patterns flashing in discordant rhythms that reflected their collective panic. "Silence!" Veshmara's harmonic voice resonated at a frequency that physically disrupted the other counselors' vocal mechanisms. "This display of disunity only compounds our vulnerability." Defense Minister Krell Vorax projected a holographic reconstruction of the human assault. The attack lasted precisely 8 minutes and 14 seconds. They neutralized our primary defense grid, immobilized 3 Sentinel-class warships, extracted their personnel, and departed, all without a single hull breach to habitation sectors. "They could have destroyed us entirely," observed Science Counselor Neth-Larai, its slender limbs trembling slightly. "This was not merely retaliation, it was communication." Veshmara turned to Intelligence Director Izu Moore, who had remained unnervingly still throughout the proceedings. "Explain how your department so catastrophically misjudged human capabilities." Izu Moore's exoskeleton shifted to a deep indigo, a color signifying profound distress in Quasirian chromatic language. "Our assessment was based on their visible technological profile. They deliberately concealed their military advancements behind a facade of slower-than-light exploration vessels and conventional defenses." "And the ambassador's death?" Veshmara demanded. "Our investigation confirms hydromethylline in the ceremonial chalice," Izu Moore replied. "But its introduction came not from the preparation staff, but from Counselor Drenvazak's personal security detail." All attention turned to the empty seat where the Trade Alliance representative should have been. Drenvazak had mysteriously departed, the station hours before the human attack. "The Trade Alliance sought to provoke conflict," Krell Vorax concluded. "They've long advocated for preemptive action against emerging spacefaring species." Meanwhile, aboard the Raven Nemesis returning to Earth, Commander Kalani reviewed the intelligence extracted from Helix Station. Lieutenant Ravenna, now recovering, in the medical bay, had provided crucial context for the encrypted communications. The Quasirian Confederacy isn't as unified as they present themselves, she explained, her voice still rough from her ordeal. The Trade Alliance faction sees humanity as an existential threat, not because of our military, but because of our economic model. Admiral Okoye's holographic projection nodded gravely. Elaborate, Lieutenant. The Confederacy maintains control through technological dependency. Member species gain access to advanced technology, but remain reliant on Quasirian maintenance and upgrades. Our open-source approach to technological development threatens that model. Specialist Moreau gestured to the decoded data streams. There's more. The Trade Alliance has been systematically eliminating representatives from species that could potentially ally with humanity. Ambassador Nomari wasn't their first target, just the first from a species capable of immediate retaliation. On Earth, President Castellanos convened an emergency session of the Global Security Council. The chamber's massive screens displayed real-time analysis of the operation's aftermath, including intercepted communications from across the F4 galaxy as news of the human incursion spread. The diplomatic implications are seismic, noted Foreign Secretary Amara Kwan. 17 previously neutral systems have already transmitted requests for formal relations with Earth. They witnessed what our Ravens accomplished against supposedly invincible Quasirian defenses. And the Quasirians themselves? The President asked. Admiral Okoye gestured to a classified intelligence summary. Their confederacy is fracturing. The Trade Alliance faction attempted to frame the central government for the ambassador's assassination, likely hoping to provoke a disproportionate human response that would unite the Confederacy against us. Instead, our surgical strike demonstrated both overwhelming capability and deliberate restraint, General Dahl added. We've created division among their leadership while establishing our technological superiority. President Castellanos studied the strategic projections with narrowed eyes. Then we've created an opportunity. Prepare a diplomatic mission, this time with appropriate security measures. We'll deal directly with the Quasirian central government, bypassing the Trade Alliance entirely. Madam President, Admiral Okoye cautioned, we should consider that this could still escalate into full-scale conflict, which is precisely why we won't withdraw our forces yet, she replied. The Ravens will remain deployed at strategic positions, visible reminders of our reach. Sometimes the most effective diplomacy comes from negotiating from a position of demonstrated strength. As the Raven fleet maintained its vigilant presence, a new message was prepared for transmission to the Quasirian High Council, an offer of reconciliation backed by the implicit understanding that humanity now possessed the means to enforce its will across interstellar distances that had previously made them feel secure in their aggression. The balance of power had shifted irrevocably, not through conquest, but through a demonstration of capabilities that rewrote the rules of interstellar relations. Earth was no longer a distant, emerging threat. It was an immediate force that could not be ignored or easily subdued. The Quasirian Emergency Conclave convened in a chamber deep beneath Helix Station's public levels. Representatives from 16 species sat in tense silence as High Counselor Vesh Mara initiated proceedings without the customary harmonic preludes. We face unprecedented circumstances, Veshamara stated, its exoskeleton now set to formal diplomatic neutrality, a flat gray that revealed nothing of its emotional state. The humans have transmitted terms for continuing relations. Terms? Sputtered Grav Marshal Hux Belier of the Defense Coordination. They violated sovereign space, disabled our fleet, and now dictate terms as if victorious in a war we never declared? A war certain factions attempted to instigate, corrected Veshmara pointedly. The Trade Alliance's representative remains conspicuously absent, yet evidence of their involvement in Ambassador Nomari's death mounts hourly. The holographic display activated, showing the impossible. 7 Raven vessels positioned near critical Confederacy installations throughout the F4 galaxy. Each maintained a passive stance, weapon systems dormant, but visibly ready. How are they sustaining position? Demanded Science Counselor Nethlerai. Our models indicate their wormhole technology should require massive energy reserves between jumps. Evidently, our models require revision, Veshmara replied dryly. The human terms appeared in the center of the chamber, translated into all Confederacy languages. Immediate extradition of all individuals involved in Ambassador Nomari's assassination 2. Reparations to Earth in the form of unrestricted access to Quasarian gravitic manipulation technology. 3. Establishment of an independent investigation council with representatives from non-aligned systems. Recognition of human sovereign interests in 12 previously contested systems. Direct communication channel between Earth leadership and the Quasarian High Council, bypassing traditional diplomatic hierarchies. This is extortion! Protested Trade Minister Zol Varen, whose faction had lost significant influence since Drenvazak's disappearance. This is restraint, countered Nethlerai. Analysis of their strike capability suggests they could have demanded far more, or simply taken it by force. Meanwhile, aboard Earth's orbital diplomatic platform Concordia, a very different meeting was taking place. President Castellanos personally greeted representatives from 23 species, many of whom had previously maintained cautious neutrality between Earth and the Quasarian Confederacy. Humanity does not seek dominance, she assured them, standing beside a memorial hologram of Ambassador Nomari. We seek partnership based on mutual respect and technological exchange without dependency. Ambassador Joran of the Kaldari Collective, a species known for their caution, spoke first. For centuries, the Quasarians have maintained their position through technological advantage and strategic elimination of potential rivals. Your demonstration has adjusted our risk calculations regarding alignment. We understand your caution, replied Foreign Secretary Kwan. The Quasarians have enforced a model of calculated dependency through their technology-sharing programs. Earth proposes an alternative, open-source development with shared benefits. On cue, General Dal activated a secure presentation showing selected aspects of Earth's gravitational manipulation technology. Innovations distinct from Quasarian approaches, but equally advanced. We offer this freely, President Castellanos continued, as a foundation for a new coalition based on collaborative advancement rather than dependency. Each species contributes according to their unique evolutionary advantages and receives full access to coalition developments. The representatives exchanged glances, their varied physiologies expressing a common emotion, cautious hope mixed with lingering skepticism. Ambassador Tekla of the silicon-based Urdani gestured with crystalline appendages. The Quasarians will not surrender their hegemony without resistance. They may appear fractured now, but history suggests they will unify against external threats. Which is why timing is essential, Admiral Okoye explained. Our intelligence indicates the Trade Alliance faction has been systematically eliminating potential Earth allies for decades. Many of your own diplomatic missions have suffered accidents when seeking independent relations with emerging spacefaring species. The holographic display shifted to show intercepted Quasarian communications, evidence of coordinated suppression campaigns against multiple civilizations represented in the room. The revelation sent ripples of anger through the gathering. Back at Helix Station, the High Council's debate had grown increasingly fractious until a priority communication interrupted their deliberations. The massive display showed President Castellanos standing confidently beside representatives of 23 formerly neutral or marginally aligned species. High Counselor Veshmara, she began without preamble. I speak now as the unified voice of the newly formed Orion Cooperative. We represent 37% of the F4 galaxy's economic output and control access to 62% of its rare element sources. Veshmara's exoskeleton involuntarily flashed patterns of alarm before stabilizing. This coalition lacks legal standing under Confederacy protocols. The cooperative operates independent of Confederacy jurisdiction, Castellanos replied, smoothly. Our charter recognizes the sovereign right of all spacefaring species to form alliances without Quasirian approval, a right your trade alliance has systematically undermined through assassination and sabotage. She gestured to the diverse group beside her. We do not seek conflict, but neither will we tolerate further aggression. The terms transmitted to you represent our collective position. We await your response within one standard cycle. The transmission ended, leaving the Quasirian Council in stunned silence. Their carefully maintained system of alliances and dependencies, cultivated over centuries, had been dramatically undermined in days. They have outmaneuvered us, Nethlarai finally observed. Not merely militarily, but diplomatically. Veshmara's harmonic voice had lost its resonant confidence. Prepare our response. We must salvage what influence remains before this. Cooperative consolidates further. Across the F4 galaxy, power was realigning with breathtaking speed. Earth had demonstrated not only technological capability but strategic brilliance, transforming a single act of aggression against its envoy into the catalyst for a galactic power shift that the Quasirians had spent centuries preventing. And aboard the Raven Nemesis, Commander Kalani received updated mission parameters from Earth Command. Maintain presence, support coalition formation, prepare for possible Quasirian military response. Humanity's revenge for a single diplomatic life had restructured the power balance of an entire galaxy, not through overwhelming destruction, but through precision, restraint, and the skillful leverage of long-simmering discontent among those who had lived too long under Quasirian dominance. The observation deck of the Raven flagship Vindicator offered a panoramic view of history unfolding. Ambassador Mira Nomari, daughter of the fallen Varric Nomari, stood silently as the Quasirian delegation's shuttle approached. Beside her, Admiral Okoye and President Castellanos represented Earth's military and political authority at this pivotal moment. Your father would be proud, Castellanos said softly. In death, he accomplished what might have taken decades through conventional diplomacy. He believed peaceful cooperation was inevitable, Mira replied, her expression composed despite the emotional weight of the occasion. Though I doubt he envisioned it arriving through this particular path. The past 3 weeks had transformed the F4 galaxy's political landscape. The Orion Cooperative had expanded to include 38 species, many previously under Quasirian influence. Trade routes had been redrawn, technological exchange protocols established, and mutual defense pacts signed, all while Earth's Raven fleet maintained its vigilant presence. The Quasirian shuttle docked with precise, almost mechanical movements. A reflection of the rigid control its occupants now exercised over their every action in human presence. The delegation that emerged was led not by a lower functionary, as diplomatic protocol might have suggested, but by High Counselor Veshmara itself. They're showing appropriate deference, Admiral Okoye noted. Their internal assessment must have concluded resistance is futile. Security Officer Petra Vos, who had replaced the recovering Lieutenant Ravenna, scanned the approaching delegation. Confirmed. They're carrying only the ceremonial artifacts specified in the agreement. No weapons, no unauthorized technology. The meeting chamber aboard the Vindicator had been designed specifically for this encounter, a neutral space incorporating both human and Quasirian environmental preferences. At its center stood a circular table of polished lunar basalt, with the Treaty of Mutual Recognition projected as a hologram above its surface. High Counselor Veshmara performed the formal Quasirian greeting, its movements deliberate and precise. The Confederacy acknowledges the legitimacy of the Orion Cooperative and seeks to establish permanent peaceful relations between our peoples. Earth welcomes this step toward a more balanced galaxy, President Castellanos replied. Before proceeding, there remains the matter of justice for Ambassador Nomari. At her gesture, a side door opened. 4 human security officers escorted in a Quasirian whose exoskeleton displayed the distinctive patterns of the Trade Alliance faction. Former counselor Dren Vazak had been captured, attempting to flee to uncharted regions beyond Confederacy. Space! The conspirators have been identified, Veshmara stated. In accordance with your terms, we surrender them to Earth's justice system. Dren Vazak's color patterns swirled in patterns of rage and defiance. You compromise centuries of Quasirian dominance for the sake of appeasing these primitives. Our founders would view this as treasonous capitulation. Our founders lacked context, Veshmara replied evenly. They never encountered a species capable of bypassing our technological advantages through innovation rather than imitation. Ambassador Mira Nomari stepped forward. Justice is not vengeance. Earth proposes that the conspirators serve their sentences, helping to rebuild the worlds their faction's policies have damaged. Rehabilitation through restoration. The terms of the treaty were unprecedented in galactic history. Rather than subjugating the defeated power, they established frameworks for genuine cooperation. The Quasirian Confederacy would maintain sovereignty over its core systems while relinquishing exclusive control of disputed territories. Technology exchange would proceed under transparent protocols, ending centuries of engineered dependency. Most significantly, the treaty established the Galactic Concord, an independent judiciary body with representatives from all signatory species, empowered to adjudicate future disputes without military intervention. As Veshmara pressed its appendage to the authentication panel, finalizing the Confederacy's agreement, ripples of notification spread across the F4 galaxy. On countless worlds, beings of diverse physiologies and evolutionary histories watched their political reality transform. Afterward, in a private moment before departing the Vindicator, Veshmara addressed Ambassador Nomari directly. Your species' response perplexes us still, it admitted, its harmonic voice modulated to convey sincerity. You possessed the capability to destroy our civilization, yet chose restraint. You held overwhelming leverage, yet offered partnership rather than subjugation. Destruction is simple, Mira replied. Creation requires greater vision and strength. My father understood this. In his final diplomatic briefing, he noted that true power isn't measured by what one can destroy, but by what one can build from the aftermath of conflict. 3 standard months later, the first Quasirian research team arrived at Earth's Jupiter station to begin collaborative work on transdimensional physics. Led by science counselor Neth Larai, they brought unique perspectives that complemented human theoretical approaches. Commander Kalani, now promoted to oversee security for the joint project, welcomed them personally. Your insights on quantum gravitic interactions could accelerate our understanding by decades, he acknowledged. Neth Larai's exoskeleton shifted to the subtle blue-green pattern that indicated intellectual excitement, and your species' intuitive approach to mathematical problems promises solutions we would never have conceived. Perhaps this is the greatest revelation, that different evolutionary paths create complementary cognitive strengths. On the anniversary of Ambassador Varric Nomari's death, representatives from 57 species gathered at the newly constructed Galactic Concord headquarters. There, a memorial depicted not just the fallen ambassador, but representatives of all species who had lost envoys to violence throughout recorded history. President Castellanos unveiled the central inscription, "Diplomacy requires courage equal to any battlefield. Those who stand for peace in hostile territories demonstrate humanity's highest qualities, regardless of their species of origin." The Raven fleet remained, transformed from instruments of war to symbols of the new order's enforcement capability. Their presence reminded all parties that while diplomacy was preferred, the capacity for swift, decisive action remained, a guarantee that no species would again believe they could strike with impunity against another's representatives. Earth. had entered galactic politics through tragedy, responded with measured force, and ultimately reshaped an entire galaxy not through conquest, but through the strategic application of both strength and wisdom. In diplomatic circles throughout known space, a new axiom emerged. Consider carefully before harming Earth's envoys. They value life highly, avenge it precisely, and transform retaliation into opportunity with unsettling efficiency. The F4 galaxy, once dominated by ancient hierarchies, had been fundamentally reordered because a single human life had been wrongfully taken, and because humanity's response had demonstrated a vision of power more sophisticated than mere destruction. The swift revenge had not been the end, but merely the opening move in a greater game that rewritten the rules of galactic civilization itself. Ambassador Mira Nomari, standing at her father's memorial, summed it up to a gathering of new diplomatic cadets. They took one life, thinking us too distant to respond. In return, we didn't take their lives. We transformed their universe.